Welcome. My name is Edmundo Arrioja, and I will talk about analysis of medical tourism and the effect of using digital tools to profile travelers in Mexico. The increase of internet services and the availability of new cutting-edge technology, as well as the use of mobile applications and devices, set a major challenge for medical tourism service providers. E-commerce sites and social networks are an important source for consumers' awareness and knowledge regarding the medical tourism business model in Mexico, which has grown at accelerated rates in recent years. Therefore, their use should be enhanced by formalizing this activity and creating integrated commercial strategies. Word of mouth and internet are consumers' preferred sources of information of medical tourism, where trust is elemental for the perception of quality online information. The use of social networks as a means of reference and information based on the other users' experience and recommendations, as well as the use of mobile applications, have contributed to making electronic commerce increasingly profitable for companies that incorporate them in the business model. This research analyzes the preferences of consumption of medical tourism services in Mexico to determine the effect of formalizing the offer of services with the help of a digital platform on the consumer experience. The study seeks to determine through the integration of different cluster methodologies which are the profiles of medical tourism travelers to better predict their consumption habits and channel the various options available using digital tools and social networks to promote the most attractive alternative of consumer benefit, which translates into higher sales, impacting the entire value chain of this sector. The major problems detected, first of all, is that medical tourism industry in Mexico only has the use of internet pages to contact interest groups. Stone at 2002 point out that access to detailed information on service allow for better comparison of features and prices. According to Ureña Lopez et al. 2011, consumer behavior in the purchasing decision is increasingly informed, sophisticated, and complex. There is a need to improve the experience and availability of medical tourism services in Mexico, relying on the use of technological tools that allow the integration of various options of medical and hospital services. Considering the tastes and preferences of consumers of medical tourism, using various tools of rapprochement between consumer and service providers should be a priority, according to Kim et al. 2019. In other instances, the COVID-19 pandemic during the last years has boosted the technification of main previously only face-to-face services and has accelerated the option of digital tools and solutions by companies and professionals, accordingly to Garcia Munoz et al. 2020. The tourism is a strategic activity for our country and contributes at 8.4% of national GDP, according to Secretary of Tourism 2018. In other instances, the medical tourism has grown over the last few years, placing just behind in second place after the United States. According to the INEGI figures of the same 2018, medical tourism represent revenues of $1.6 billion that year, and it is missing to add the national foreign medical tourism. According to the data obtained from Euromonitor International 2020, as shown in this graph, Mexico maintains sustained growth except for the years 2009, 2015, and 2016. This is mainly due to the differential price and the quality of facilities and medical care that country possess. The North American market is an unbeatable opportunity for medical tourism in Mexico, according to Becker 2014. That this is due to the proximity and prices of medical treatments in the United States and Canada. The main objective and the hypothesis of this research eh, starts with the lack of use of digital tools, transparency and promotion in medical tourism industry in Mexico, and its possible effects led to the formulation of the following hypotheses. First of all, an increase in transparency of medical tourism services in Mexico through the use of digital tools has an effect on consumer purchasing decision making. Second, The greater use of digital tools to make more information available about medical terms, the greater the patient willingness to consume services in Mexico. Analyzing the theoretical framework of these topics, first of all, we detect that the need of digital tools based on artificial intelligence for the analysis of human behavior in the fields of understanding, perception, problem solving and decision making to reproduce them with the help of a computer according to Hardy 2001. Organizations need to process and identify patterns in very large datasets and translate them into useful business information according to McAfee and Brian Jobson 2012. Social media and the internet have helped to obtain simultaneous real-time information and segment different types of consumers by their interest, education, sex, location, and marital status, according to Angulo Toro 2009. Regarding social media, consumers' trust positively impacts brands' assessment and their emotional response to advertisement, according to Han et al. 2016. As such, websites and social media are important platforms for healthcare providers as well as medical tourists to both search for and provide information on experiences, services, destination, firms, cost, among others, according to MedHecar 2017. Therefore, data and information retrieved online, and particularly social media, have a significant impact on medical tourism consumers' decision making. However, project and integrating technology should focus more on information and less on technology, according to Merchant and Pepper 2013, as the goal of any system is to provide information or execute a database action. Reviewing the second hypothesis, we see that the use of data is very important, particularly towards to the exploitation given to them through the advanced analytics for the personal care industry. Raghupati 2014. A study on expectation confirmation perspective suggests that consumer satisfaction is well associated with their expectation confirmation, with which may be derived from the actual performance of medical service, according to Chu et al. 2012. The internet marketing and social media companies use their members' large volumes of data to analyze them for commercial gain, which is particularly evidenced by the burgeoning popularity of many social networks such as Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, according to Agarwal 2011. All analytical-based uh, artificial intelligence recommendation systems and advanced routines for determining customer behavior are phenomenon of increasing relevance to the economic impact it represents for companies. It is important to study the role played by information technologies in the competitiveness of the service providers, according to Martinez et al. 2006. A study on healthcare applications showcases a variety of data sources, their constant interrelationship, and the applications available for processing leveraging personal care, according to Kong and Tan at 2011. Those companies and individuals who respond more efficiently and recognize that competing in the world of analytics will provide them with greater competitive advantages and will be the main beneficiaries of this technological revolution, according to Davenport and Patel 2012. Now we will tell you the sources of information that we use. This study makes a quantitative analysis of data obtained from several sources of information. First of all, we use data extracted from Medical Tourism Association like Patients Beyond Borders and Medical Tourism Association. We also use the data from 5 specialized reports of Euromonitor International at the end of August 2020. Also, we use data from a survey applied to a sample of 100 consumers of medical tourism services. with this data gathered, we set the following variables uh, based on the previous studies and theoretical framework reviewed. First of all, we put the expenditure. That this is a data type that weight have a weight figure and is the average travel expense of the medical tourist consumers. Next, we ask for the age, also the number of trips per year for each traveler. Of course, the gender. We set one for male, zero for female. And then we also ask for the type of transport that they use, aerial, terrestrial, or maritime. We also ask for the place that they prefer to visit uh, between city and beach, and also the type of trip that they usually frequency, like business, pleasure, or both. And at least, not at last, the reservation medium. First, the internet applications, then social networks, or agency or telephone booking preference. The methodology that we use, as I already said, first the study began with a correlation analysis to determine if the variables have a significant relationship. Subsequently, a cluster segmentation analysis for mixed data was performed to identify the relationship between the variables and the groups of travel profiles. For this, we use the following method, considering the sample under study and the effect of the selection of reservation tools on those profiles. We use the hierarchical agglomerative. This is a grouping classifies objects into groups according to their similarity, and through a repetitive process, pairs of groups are successively merged until all groups merge into one large group containing all objects. Then we use a k-means. This is an effective clustering algorithm to divide data into datasets and also into k groups according to the similarity of the observations. At least, and not at last, we use chemedoids. Chemedoids is a partition clustering technique where each cluster is represented by an element of the cluster. These are points known as medoids. The term medoid refers to an object with a cluster for which the average dissimilarity between it and all other members of the cluster is minimal. The objective of comparing a series of methodologies is to be able to select an ideal methodology for the main treatment of the analyzed data. The following steps were considered in the development of the segmentation model. First, we use the Hopkins statistic for validation of variable correlation and trends in clustering. Then the selection with this we select the number of partitions to be made. The third part of the methodology we have a selection of the best cluster segmentation algorithm using Dunn index. The Dunn index use the mixed separation and compared with the max diameter. And then the validation of the generated cluster using silhouette with coefficient. The results of this analysis, first in the correlation analysis, as we can see in the following table, there is a clear correlation between the age and the type of reservation. This correlation is positive at older ages in relation to the telephone and travel agency reservation method, and negative in relation to the internet and social networks. There is also a positive correlation between average expenses and travel frequency. Also, When we apply the Hopkins statistic, it shows that the probability that a given data set is generated by data of a uniform distribution using we use for this the R tool, and we the result gathered is the H for Hopkins statistic is 0.5006383. This implies that the grouping to be identified is not random and that there is an underlying pattern. In this table, we generate also with the Gower distance the most similar pairs of data for the 100 surveys applied, and we can see that the two similar pairs are those shown in this table. Also, with the same Gower distance, we generate the most different pairs of data for comparison method. In another instance, below is the comparative of the three cluster segmentation methods proposed, where we can see that hierarchical agglomerative model for tree partition is the one that reports the highest parameters using Dunn index. After applying the final validation using silhouette width coefficient, we can see that the difference between hierarchical agglomerative and camedoids method is minimal. So we will select the camedoids method for the final analysis, as it is less sensitive model to noise and outliers. We use for this also R tool. Then we can see in this graph that the width of silhouette used by an algorithm in R to determine the number of clusters, where you can see that three clusters yield the highest initial value. Also, in the cluster dispersion shown below, this graph, elaborated by means of routing in R tool, also allows to locate in the plane the dispersion of the three defined clusters. In other instance, the silhouette width coefficient validates the quality of the cluster and determine how well the observations were classified. And we can notice that in this graph that it displays the quality of the cluster created with camedoids. This graph shows how many are correctly classified, how many can be overlaps, and how many will be in inappropriate cluster, that's the negative ones. In main conclusions, according to the analysis of cluster, we can conclude that consumers of medical tourism services in Mexico can be classified in three different profiles based on the preferences and consumption habits. First, frequent, air, and modern travel profile. Then, profile of the saving traveler, terrestrial and modern. And at least, occasional air, traditional travel profile. Consumers mostly travel from the United States, Canada, Western Europe to Asia and Latin America for medical tourism, according to Hopkins et al. 2010. Common reasons may include insufficient insurance coverage, high cost of procedures, according to Liu et al. At 2014. Results indicate that the digital tools in fact positively influence consumer decision making. Further, having clearly identified profiles of medical tourism will allow service providers to offer a better user experience, which may increase patients' willingness to consume services in Mexico. The results obtained from the applied models that digital tools have a direct and positive effect on behavior of consumer of medical tourism services in Mexico, which allow to determine the type of profile that arrival accurately, which confirms what is commented by several of the authors reviewing the theoretical frameworks, such as Montiel 2015, Christensen et al. 2016, Angulo Torres 2019, and Garcia Muñoz et al. 2020. Limitation and future line of work. First, the study main limitation is the sample. A result cannot be generalized. Then, a future line of research is to integrate segmentation of cluster into a platform of data to processing of medical tourism, as well as the generation of automatic reports that could be consulted automatically through the cloud. Those are a sample of the references used and consulted in the theoretical framework. Thanks.